Hey guys, how are we doing today?
We're here.
We're
This is
alive.
Dave. We have John, and my name is Bo. And I guess we're just a bunch of old guys. I mean, in this realm, everybody's you gotta be hip and young, right?
That's the myth. We like to
And
we like to prove
here
them
we
wrong.
are, totally excited about this technology
Yeah.
and all these synths and this software, and especially UHE software. And John, we asked you to come on here
Yeah.
because you have made patches for Zebra and
Yes.
Repro,
Yes.
but so much more that we will get into. And we'll get into the sounds that you made for Zebra, because that Talk to Zebra is just so amazing, awesome. So when we
Thank
can
you.
get a chance to walk through that, but it's interesting. I came to know of you because of I have Zebra, and
Ah.
started researching sound sets for Zebra, and then you came up, and then I started to find out more about you, that you have a long history within the music and the synthesizer industry.
Yes, sir.
And I know you go back to have made sounds for Korg, and so that goes back how long? Where did you start, and how did you get started?
I actually just recently, on the 15th of August, just like a week ago or less, celebrated the 30-year anniversary since I moved to Los Angeles from Seattle, which was when I moved from a music store in Seattle that I worked at for 3 years out of college. I worked at a music store, sold synthesizers for Korg, Kurzweil, Akai, Casio. I won the Casio FZ1 competition for best demo using the FZ1, and that's how I met Jerry Kowarski, who's someone I later on worked for like 10 years with at Korg. So I was friends with him before I even started with Korg officially, and he was at Casio in New York at the time. But I would make synthesizer sounds for my customers with the instruments that I sold. That was how I would say, well, buy from me instead of buying from another music store. Mail order just was starting. And that was even more importantly, like, well, you'll get this support from me. I would have a synthesizer class every Thursday night. We would talk about whatever we wanted to talk about. And the Korg M1 came out. And Ben Dowling was the product specialist for Korg, and he traveled through the whole West Coast. And the M1 just completely overwhelmed Korg with the success. They weren't expecting it to be as successful as it was. The factory in Japan went into 24-hour manufacturing for, I think, a year and a half straight because they couldn't keep up with the demand. And we became friends. He would come up with new sounds. Hey, I got new sounds. I'd say, I have new sounds. And so we became buds. And he's like, hey, I need someone to help. So 30 years ago, I moved to Los Angeles, and I started as a product specialist for Korg. And I sent those sounds that I made for my customers in Seattle to Jack Hotop and the team at Korg New York, and they sent it to Japan. And Japan contacted me just shortly after that and said, hey, you know how to program. We have a drum card coming out. Would you like to do the patches and combinations for it? And so I took all the patches that I made, and I made combinations, and I made the drum kits, and I sent it to Japan. And that kind of like pushed me into the fast track to become full-time voicing. And so since 1989, I've been involved with almost all the Korg workstations. The Korg Wave Drum is a product that I've been part of the management team for voicing and all that kind of stuff since the first one. I've worked with Eric Persing and Spectrasonics since before Spectrasonics. When it was support, I was doing underground support without telling Korg for the roll-in samplers, stuff like that. So, yeah, it's been a long time. Now with you, hey, I've actually worked and known Urs before he started the company. And I did factory voicing for Filterscape. You'll find my patches in there for Ace. I have factory patches. He actually hired me for that. So I've worked a lot with Uhe products, and he's a good guy, really good guy. And so we did a library kind of taking things to another direction called Toxic Zebra, which is about deep bass music, aggressive things that are not the norm. Howard's an incredible programmer. He loves emulative and like really clever things that are not really like ripping your head off kind of sounds. It's not his thing. And so between him and the other, it's a very different. By the way, also Seth. I found Seth because he had done a really crazy aggressive sample library for a company, and it said, as I bought it, and it's in the description, you know, Portland based. I'm like, hey, I live in Portland. And so I got a hold of him. He did this. We did a library called Toxic Omnisphere. He did some stuff on the very first versions of Mega Macho drums. He now is in a very big part of Spectrasonics. And so he lives in Los Angeles and works really closely with Eric and team. So it's cool to, he made a lot of the patches that are in this library called Toxic Zebra. So this is all sorts of, let me do this. Let me share the interface because you guys can't see this interface. I forgot I'm still sharing this. So let's go to the interface like this, share screen. So here's 2.8, and here's the artwork for Toxic Zebra. And it's a pissed off zebra that's drank some sort of radioactive material and eyes glow. But Seth Norman and myself did these patches and wavetables for Zebra. And if you come over to them, there's a whole lot of crazy stuff. This is Pissed Zebra, which is one note. And we also programmed the crap out of the performance knobs. So you can get all sorts of things. Everyone is doing something. I don't know any other factory patch library that has.
No, that's awesome. And so many libraries all have a mono, you know,
Yeah.
they're not, you know, they're just one sound, so you can't make it your own sound. So
It takes a long time to go through all of the engine and connect up every one, but we did it to every patch. If you go through every patch, they all have attack, release. This is always effects, and because I come from a workstation synthesis background, they are standardized, so this is always your effects box, this is always your envelope box, this is always filters, and this is always something that will screw up the oscillators. So again, it's aggressive. It's not your normal timbres you hear from Zebra, so it's really fun. Look at this chain. This is all the things used.
straight up love.
You know, so as you go through these, there's all sorts of really cool. This is a build that lasts forever.
Oh, this is so cool because it's interesting that you play this sound right now because I was last night I'm working on a an old Deutsche Neue Welle tune, and we actually need this exact riser in there.
Well, there you go. You move the mod wheel. You know, so there's a whole bunch of different build-ups and screeches and all sorts of crazy stuff outside of your normal. You know, you need those cool noises and stuff like that. So it's toxic. Everything you'll find here is... Actually, I will say this. I sent this to Howard, and he's like, I like this sound. And he's pointed, I think it was this one. Oh, no, it was Ladybug. He goes, I like that one.
Well, I mean, I like it too. But yeah, they're like, it's not rude.
Yeah, it's not the... So yeah, it's a different personality. So Toxic Zebra, check it out.
So how much is it?
$35 at pluginguru.com. So
$35. See
Yeah.
how far that is so interesting to me, because I guess we all, when we in the 80s, that
Yeah.
when a new synthesizer came out,
Yeah.
either Korg or Roland or whatever, there was
Exactly.
the signature sound that you bought the synthesizer for,
right,
and some of those sounds that sparked billion-dollar hits,
right.
just because somebody got inspired by that one patch on one of
Right.
his keyboards.
Yeah.
And now for less than $40,
Yeah.
you basically buy a whole new synthesizer.
Right. If
And you use
this kind of personality, I love to do this kind of stuff. I did the same thing with Absynth. Native Instruments Absynth is like the sprinkle on top special effect kind of a synth. But I've been a part of Absynth since the first version. I'm friends with Brian Clevenger, and I was really disappointed where Native Instruments took Absynth, because there's so much capabilities there. But if you go to Absynth, and instead of being you go through the factory voicing, and it's very sprinkle on top special effects, it's really hard to build a dance song with the sounds that you find in here. I mean, there's great stuff, but let's see, I'm in a certain library now. So if I go here, if you go to Absynth 5, to the instruments, you get alien trombones and this kind of stuff. But Absynth 5, we made a just cool. And again, we would go, when I did this library, I went to the performance and I set up every parameter. So again, we have volumes. So I love the concept of reinventing synthesizers. It's designed one way, but buy this library, and now you have a whole new set of sounds that takes it into different production space. And so I've done this with pretty much everything I've worked with. It's kind of, I'm on my own path, and I love to, with Omnisphere, we're just releasing a library this coming Friday. Here's the artwork. It's really coming out amazing. It's called Urban RMX. We did a library. I hired Nato Fields, who's a deep bass, trap, dub, Los Angeles-based producer, programmer. Just really, really incredibly talented guy. And we first made it for Break Tweaker. So if I go over here and say Isotope Break Tweaker, where is right here. This is the third library we've released for Break Tweaker. And again, we kind of are reinventing this to be more than what it is by itself. And so let's say Golden, for example. And you got fills, breakdowns. So you have all these different patterns, and this is a standardized layout on the keyboard. You're just playing notes on the keyboard to play these loops, and down here the individual samples. Well, I imported all these samples into Omnisphere. So if we go over to Omnisphere and load this up, we can find Golden actually. So let's go, hey, go over here to Golden, right here. And the original groove was 100 beats. I'm at 111 beats per minute, so now I'm playing it in Omnisphere, and the cool thing is now I can play it from keys. I can play in any key. It's no longer in a drum machine mode like this, but it's jamming. But then the RMX is because Omnisphere can do so much more. And so the RMX are taking that same basic layout and turning it into... And the mod wheels.
That's so cool to have all that automation just built in and at your fingertips.
Yes. What's crazy with Omnisphere is there's 7 patches, and the mod wheel can change parameters, effects, all sorts of things to whatever you think up, pretty much, in real time with controllers, with one controller. If I play just the mod wheel, it's doing all this changing in sounds. You know, and then it rips your head off. So there's 45 grooves, and I've done remixes of all 45. So it's like 45 mini songs. That's coming from the original, like Woa. Let's play in Break Tweaker. Like, whoa.
Like, whoa.
Dude. What are you doing to me, man? Like, wow. This is the original. In the club with my homies. Okay, so we took it from that to here it is as a groove. So if I play this at 64 beats per minute, I have the... But I can jam with it and play anything. And then I programmed all sorts of crazy stuff, even into the grooves. But the remix takes it in a whole different space. Just tons of stuff going on. So it's kind of like if you want to push the synths to the limit, you load up some plug-in groove patches, because we tend to try to use every exhaustible parameter and tool that you have to make creative, inspiring sounds to fuel your music. That's where we come from.
So you also made a series of patches for Repro.
Yes.
So talking about pushing stuff to the limit.
Yes.
Is because I mean we all I guess every keyboard player, the Prophets, the sequential circuits stuff has been kind of,
yes,
I guess, part of the holy grail. I would say probably between the sequential circuits and the Oberheim stuff.
Sure. Back in the day. I mean, in a certain, it's kind of like if you're a painter, this is a certain series of paints. These are not wavetable based like Serum, so you can't do certain harmonic sounds, but you can get some really interesting colors still from an analog synthesizer when there are so many great parameters to it. So we did a library that actually comes with patches for Repro 1 and for Repro 5, because since Repro 5, there's Dave's patches he sent me way back when. Since Repro 5 is polyphonic, we can get into some unison things that you can't do with Repro 1. Repro 1 is more like your really cool, just in your face. But what came really fun is things like these. These are song ideas. So if I set this like 120 beats per minute, it should work. One note. And what's fun with these, right? It does a whole progression. If you want, you can set this to record and And
so let's understand this. You say a whole progression,
yeah,
but you're still only holding down one key.
I'm holding one note because this is recording the notes that I play. So if let's say I want to play in the key of A flat minor, so. Okay. Oh, I wasn't recording. Let's see, one more time. Oh, I think I hit my limit or something. There. So now it's playing back my progression. So you can take any of these and program it to your own music is kind of the point I'm trying to show, is that you can start with this template that I made that does this, but then hit record and play whatever you want to play, and now it becomes your sequence. So it's very powerful to have song presets like we have set up and the synth setups and ice cream is anything that says BPM means there's a sequence attached to it. If it just says lead, then it's just a simple. And again, Repro 5, we focused more on, I found that it does really great brass, so. I mean, the personality of Repro 5 is just such great for that kind of stuff. The storms. And does keyboards and stuff like that too. So yeah, it's just a fun set of patches with my kind of the take on what you can do with. So whatever kind of music you're into, there will be patches there to play with. Monolithic. Yeah. But it's very different because Zebra has more the ability to go to the wavetables and more forms of synthesis. The repros are definitely aimed at that classic personality, and the effects are just the perfect mix of the right effects that really give it a great spirit. So, good time, fun stuff.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like the sound bank a lot too.
Yeah, there's a lot of varied stuff for, again, it's buy a library, you've got a whole bunch of inspiration for a whole bunch of music. So this is like, we're on library number 50 at this point. So been at this for a while.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for giving us this walkthrough of your...
Oh, it's my pleasure. Yeah. Well, thank you for inviting me to be a part of this little live stream.
Hey guys, how's it going? So, what do we have up today? ColourCopy. Bucket Brigade delay device. Delay chorus, flange, reverb. The idea of the Bucket Brigade delay originated in 1969 at the Philips Research Lab, which is where it was invented. The device operates as a delay by transferring charge packets from one transistor capacitor cell to another along down the way. And this is an example of essentially how it works. So we have a whole bunch of people with these water, and they're fighting a fire. We're not gonna fight fires, but they're fighting a fire. And they take the water and they pass it from one thing to another, from one person to another, all the way down the line until it finally goes to its output, which in this case is the fire. So anyway, it was invented in 1969. It was popular in the early 70s. There were a large number of analog devices that came out. And this is the UHE VST version, which is just extraordinary. We're gonna get into that in a second. So here's a diagram of how it works. This is the analog diagram. You can see the capacitors, you can see the chain. That is, that's in essence how it works. And then the last thing I wanted to bring up, which is you'll hear the word tap. Okay, so what is a tap? All of those points are taps. A tap is a point in the delay line. It would be a playhead originally, or in tape in a tape delay, it's the tape heads, how many tape heads you have. So in this case, a tap is a point in the delay line, and we'll get into that as soon as we get to the interface. So I'm gonna pull up my project. So I've got my project here using Contact with a drum set from pluginguru.com, Super Macho Drums. One of my go-to drum sets, I love it. Playing Guru Basement, and just a simple lick there. And then here we've got Zebra operating Zebra2, which we're going to get into in more detail on another video and at another time later on, but this is a brand new sound set from Howard Scar at UHE, and it is also quite extraordinary. So back to Zebra. So yeah, so we have Zebra, we have a patch going in Zebra from Zebra2 that's going into ColourCopy. It's currently bypassed. And then also feeding out to Presswork. So we'll get into Presswork another time too. So back to ColourCopy. So opening up ColourCopy, we find its elegant and approachable interface. Dark color palette, the faux wood panels, very nice to look at. A quick right click in the upper bar, we can adjust the scaling to the size of our screen. So here we can scale it down, or you can scale it up. We're gonna try to get it as big as we can for the screen we're on, just like so, but that's where it is. The right click will display this variety of resolutions that are possible, and this can accommodate a wide variety of different displays and display sizes. So if we right click on the UHE icon, you can see there's Visit UHE. You can also open up the handy dandy user's guide. It's right here. You get quick access to the manual. And then also there's a link to the support forum, which is full of helpful people that are ready to really help out anybody all the time. They're great people. And then Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube channel where there's a large number of tutorials. Okay, so for right now, I'm gonna mute the drums. And you can just hear this dry. And now I'm going to enable the signal in the ColourCopy, and we will go to the initialize patch. Okay, so the upper bar. Starting at the left, there is an immediate bypass button, which is the same button, same function as I just pushed on this button here in Bitwig. So that gives us the clean signal. That gives us our wet signal. Right next to the bypass button is the undo and redo buttons. Okay, so if you're tinkering around and you make a change, you can undo that change or redo that change or undo it again. This also works if you happen to switch over to a different preset. And oh, gee, I just ruined all my work. No, you didn't. You can just go right back to where you were before. No problem. In the center is the display, which will show the name of the preset as well as parameters that are being edited. So right now we're on init, so there's nothing here. And then these are all of the initialized presets that come with the factory sound bank. And then when we start hovering over different elements, we start to see what they are, what their value is, the longer name of all of them. And then right next to the display is the high quality button, which comes at the expense of CPU cycles. So it's going to increase CPU cycles, and it's also going to increase the quality. I have found the quality to be quite satisfactory with high quality off, and we could actually get a view of that. So that's the performance with it off. And there's a jump, of course. So HQ delivers high quality mode at the expense of CPU. Okay, right next to that is the preset browser, which we're gonna touch on separately later on, but the preset button is how you get to all of the presets and your own presets. And then right next to that is the save, which will default to your username, and then you can fill out all of this information and save your presets. And your presets are either going to be, or like in my case, they're under my name. Or there's also a user folder, which is where you'll find them here too. And you can see they're all my presets, color coded. But yeah, we'll get more in depth into that. So yeah, right next to that is save. We've covered save. And that's really it for the top panel. So the main panel, this giant part in the middle of it, consists of all of these knobs. All right, so the input gain knob controls the input like an instrument. With the green indicator on the left, it turns red when clipping. Like a real analog BBD, the system is sensitive to input gain. So if we turn this up, we can turn it up to the point where it's clipping. I'll turn it back down. But yeah, that's the indicator. The rate knob, which is this knob here, the rate knob divides the time based on your interval, your time base. So your time base can go all the way down to 1/1000th of a second, up to, this one goes up to 2 to 1, okay? With half notes, half dot, half trip, quarter notes, eighth notes, 16th notes, all the way down to 30-second notes. So the rate knob adjusts that time base from 1/4 the time base, which you can now see the delay slowed way down, all the way up to 4 times. Which now gives us some more reverby chorus type feel. Okay, next to that is regeneration. So regen is the amount of signal that gets fed back into the input. And just to be mindful of that, you can see up here on top, values beyond 70 don't decay, they start to stack up on themselves. The panic button below right here, you get that under control. And there's other ways to get that under control too that we'll dive into here in a couple of minutes. In the center, the left and right tap positions. Okay, so we have a left and a right. Holding down Shift will give us finer grain to work with. As you can see, I'm holding down Shift. Also, you can right click and you can set to whatever interval you have given these presets. Also on top of that, you can lock the tap position, which will remain locked despite changing presets. So if you lock that and then go, you see it's now in the same position. We're gonna undo and unlock. Okay, the input. So the input, we have stereo, cross, mono, left and right. This is very flexible routing. A lot of this you may not find or see an immediate huge boost because it depends on the stereo width of your input signal. So that's going to vary depending upon what's actually going in. Okay, down here below real quick, this button, which is the makeup button. This is a global setting, so this also persists through patch changes. And what this makeup button does is you see the input, it's going to keep the input and the output at the same distance apart. So if I turn the input up, it turns the output down. So we can crank and we can get our clipping input, but it doesn't clip to the output because it's still at the same position. And then there's key control, which is modulates the rate based on the key follower. We'll get a little bit more into that too. Okay, moving along. Stereo width. How wide apart the two stereo channels are. The mix wet dry button. And then of course the output knob, which is the opposite of the input knob. Okay, just below that we have an inverter. Which again, it depends on your input signal and what your settings are, how pronounced some of these settings will sound when you turn them on. But that's the invert. Right next to the invert is this little grate, and here we have label options. So you can name these to make them easier to deal with, which is just and you can name it anything you want. Enter text. Zebra rocks. And we've got colors we can cycle through just to make it easier to identify when you have a whole bunch of these stacked up in a row. Then just below the output, we have this delay freeze, which is going to put the delay on infinity. It's not going to release it. So just like that. Okay, the lower panel. Ducking. So the ducking section is similar to a conventional compressor or a conventional side chain compressor. So if you're side chaining, this will be familiar to you. So the way it works is to duck out either feedback or overall amplitude, and it can control some of the huge regenerations that can come up. So like if we turn the regen up, there we go. We've got huge regeneration, but it's being ducked out of the signal when the signal comes in. So that comes in 3 speeds, fast, medium, and low, or fast, medium, and slow. That's just gonna depend on what you're feeding into it, which one is gonna work best for you. Right next to that is either feedback, which is what we just saw, or amplitude, which is the overall amp of the whole signal. But you see, it doesn't control the feedback. Turn it back to feedback. And then the threshold, just like a compressor, sets the threshold at which ducking kicks off. Ducking off. Okay, feedback coloration, the colors of ColourCopy. Okay, so we'll start with the colors. We'll go all the way down to 1, Reso. So Reso is a light resonant tone with mild distortion and low pass filtering. Reso has a wide working range of frequencies. The high resonance permits more high frequencies than the other colors. So if you have highs, this is where this will go. Moving into Sparkle. The brightest mode has early distortion and shallow low-high pass filtering. Regen builds up faster here than in other colors. As we can see there. Moving into number 3, Buzz. This color has very strong resonance and unique characteristics. Among them being filter cutoff depends on rate. So the faster the rate, the sharper the filter cutoff. It shares a number of similarities with the Repro Leerbird effect, if you're familiar with that. And you can consult the manual on some more specifics about that. So moving into Snap. This lively color has narrow range that reacts quickly, accenting transient signals. Its steep high and low cutoff combined with quick compression gives it its snap. If I turn ducking back off again, we'll turn regen back down. And the 5th color, Dusk. Deep, low, narrow bass with soft distortion will soften transients and provide a clean low end. This, with its low working range, the noise floor is pushed up with the signal. So the more signal you bring in, the higher your noise floor is going to be. Not particularly noticeable with this patch, but oh, there it is. Makeup off. Okay, over onto this side. So the floor is the noise floor. That's what it's talking about. The vintage noise floor, which is the default, is more reminiscent of actual analog hardware and is going to provide more noise. So the digital noise floor is just low, is the lowest noise floor that there actually is. Right next to that, we have brightness and saturation. So brightness adjusts the feedback filter parameters to reduce or brighten the delay signal. So we can make it on Dusk because of its working range and the filters. You can see it. And saturation moves between clean and analog saturation. So go all the way down to 0, or we can add saturation. It's not going to be very. Okay, and then over to the lower right, we have modulation. So modulation provides a simple LFO style modulation. It's essential for chorus and flange and adding general spice just overall. So starting with the target selector, the rate and rate plus. Okay, so rate, the LFO modulates the rate in a smooth, consistent manner based on the overall time base. So whatever your time base is, it's going to adjust the rate. The frequency is how fast it's going, and the depth is how much it's actually kicking in. So if we turn the depth up, we can start to hear it. Rate plus is the same as rate, except it gives you the full range from 1/4 speed all the way up to 4 times speed. Below that is tap position, modulates both tap positions to add chorus. And then amplitude modulation. Which gives you this nice smooth, well, amp modulation, but this is kind of Leslie-esque. And then stereo phase controls the stereo phase of the left and right signals and how the LFO applies modulation. Okay, that's the overview of the interface for ColourCopy. I guess the one thing that there is left to look at is the preset browser. So this is now a standard for UHI products. This is the new preset browser, which is under the preset button and comes with tags. So there's a number of tags that are all applied to different things that you can now select to see what's available. Or by directory. Then a right click will give you favorites options, so you can add these to your favorites, and when you choose favorites, they get added to the appropriate color. Hey guys, so I wanted to show you a few things about that button, which is this button right here, the key control button, which is a key follower, takes in MIDI data, and then it will adjust the frequency based on the note that's playing in MIDI. Now, on top of that, we've got some other things going on. There's some crazy modulation, because we love crazy modulation, and you can see down here, we've got a couple of modulators that are panning the mix back and forth. Then I've got the Bitwig drum kit that's just playing this cool groove. And so yeah, so anyway, so this key controller, yeah, it takes it in, and then it will translate the frequency into a note that you can hear. And it was really, really pronounced on this particular preset. And it just, yeah, it's awesome. And so anyway, we'll get there in just a second. There's also, this is made by our favorite, the Unshushable Coctor from UHI, one of our favorite programmers. And without any further ado, I'll let you judge for yourself. That button. That button is pretty awesome. That button rocks. We love it, and we just wanted to share that with you. Thanks so much for watching.